A lot of people say Trick is the #1 jungler, but I actually think it's Jankos. But it's mostly like, Jankos versus me, because every time I face this guy, he has like, mutilates me. But it's a bit kind of because he has kind of the same playstyle as me. We like to find enemy jungler and we like to kill each other. But every time I face this guy, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to his red buff and kill this guy. And then he's like already in my brush and he kills me. He's always like 5 steps ahead of me, and that's why I like, he's my like kryptonite, that guy.
Welcome back, everybody, to Berlin. We're second game between Giants and H2K. It's about to get into picks and bans, and talk about saying Jankos is his kryptonite. Memento was bodying him early game.
He took that kryptonite and smashed it. Like,
on
that
the
was a great
and he
early
threw
game.
it on the ground.
Yeah, he really did. What a great performance from Memento in the early game of game 1. I almost felt like that he was the one reading Jankos from that first blood play in the way in which he set up that counter gank. But still, the fact that Memento and Giants were able to have such a fantastic early game can only speak positive, or look positive, for the side of Giants.
I think so. They definitely need to try and get a little bit more for the later game, but it looked promising for quite a while for them. And remember, we could be seeing some of these teams up ahead in the playoffs. And before we get into the game #1, just remember, with those playoffs on the horizon, the tickets for the EULCS Finals in Hamburg, they're going to go on sale March 1st. You can head to eu.lolesports.com to find out more information, all those details, and how you can get those tickets. See us there in Hamburg. But let's dial back in, because we're into picks and bans, game 2, Vedius.
Well, looks like that Giants are sticking to their bans so far, with Rumble being taken off the table. Now the question is, are H2K going to take the same sort of gamble that Giants did, leaving some of the power picks open, giving the possibility for maybe Knight to play down the block?
Maybe. I mean, looked all right on that Rise for quite some time, but we'll see if things change up this time around. The Rengar's banned away on H2K's side. It's time to do it on Red. Another Shen ban. They really want to hit Otawamne.
This music is tense.
I know, it really adds a level of like, this is the big game to everything.
So
good job, sound guys.
Wouldn't be surprised if H2K looked for a Camille ban right now, unless they want to try and make that gamble, leave it open. I wonder, we haven't really seen Knight play many assassins, other than, I suppose you could argue Cassiopeia is the closest that he's come to it. So I would argue you could gamble leaving the LeBlanc open. But H2K is saying, you know what, it's just too strong of a pick. We don't want to risk it. We don't want to have that possibility available for Giants. So given how the bans are trending, I wouldn't be surprised if Giants went for a first rotation, either, Graves or Varus.
Yeah, assuming the Camille gets banned as the third choice, H2K gone back to that more standard style. The Jace is now banned by Giants themselves. So we may see that Varus, we may see that Graves trying to take away some of the power. Get Memento on a champion he definitely thrived on last time around.
I feel you have to ban away the Camille. You cannot afford to give Flaxish split pushing power. This was something that he played a lot during the first weeks of LCS, and he actually had a lot of success on. Originally, we thought that Giants would be, or they only really had this split push style of play where they could only play 1-4 or 1-3-1. But the fact that it has been left available, surely this has to be priority for Giants.
Absolutely. And Flaxus is not the only person who could play this one too. I want to see, you talked about Knight not playing Assassins, maybe he'll go the Caps route.
I feel that it would make the most sense on Flaxish when you think of his champion pool where he's played Kennen in the past, AD Kennen, he's played Alawi. I just think that a champion like Camille fits into that style.
He played Ribbon, dude.
Yep.
All right, so I guess it is kind of his thing, but let's see what Odo can take up against it. He doesn't have to pick something right now. We can wait on the next rotation. But H2K, they calculated they were going to leave that open, and they take themselves the Rise for Febivin.
So they actually denied that pick away from Giants. Now, if you are Giants, Corki is the champion that comes to mind. I feel that you want to get that relatively early. You could also go for an Orianna if you're Giants. It depends on how much value they want to pull on their bottom lane this early on into the rotation.
Well, with the Varus banned away, they could pick themselves up the Jhin on this rotation. Jankos has gone the Graves, and Febivin has gone the Rise, so they've turned around pick spans from game 2, or game 1, I should say. Giants taking the time about this one.
Wouldn't it be great if Memento matched with a Lee Sin?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can play that champion, so can I. See if he can continue to do the bodying.
It could potentially be a good pick to enable Flaxish to snowball, but I would rather see someone like an Ivern be matched up with the Camille to just better set her up for if you get forced into these teamfights later on. Now the Misfortune has flexibility. You could put it on AD carry or on support. We saw her appear a couple of times after the lethality changes came out. but she hasn't been the most prominent pick because she does have some very staple weaknesses in her lack of mobility. But they have that freedom, right? You can put her on AD carry. Right now, I think their priority is to put her on the AD carry position.
Well, this is a bit different. The Azir comes back in. We saw Perks playing it the other day, but now it's in Knight's champion selection. So we've got a Camille, a Misfortune, and a Azir. I didn't expect to see all three of those in the first couple rotations for Giants Gaming.
Azir is definitely a Knight champion, something that he brought a lot out during the summer split of last year. Always been fairly potent on it, allows you to actually make a lot of surprising plays, a lot of good team fight control and poke and siege. But it does take a while to get up there, and you can punish his fairly weak laning phase, especially with a champion like Arise.
Yeah. Arise does take a little while for himself as well. See how that mid lane matchup goes if Jankos decides to sit in the mid lane like he did last time around. That Poppy's locked in for Oda. The trick's no surprises. You're not going to be flexing anything when you got the Rise of the Graves anyways. Back into phase 2 of the bans, it's going to be a Nautilus band out.
Now, I'm interested with what H2K ban away, because there's not much you can really pinch. Giants can pinch top lane. Oh, sorry, they can't pinch top lane. Poppy's already been picked.
I mean, they can, it just wouldn't do anything,
right? Yeah, they could actually look to pinch AD carries. They could ban away both the Sivir and the Jhin because they could put their Misfortune on AD carry. But H2K, if they pick something like a Malzahar, then Giants can just say, okay, we're going to put our Misfortune on support, and we can pick someone like an Ezreal on AD carry, maybe even a Caitlyn too. So the fact that this Misfortune pick has come out here does actually give a lot of freedom for Giants right now.
Yeah, taking the Sivir ban away for Giants, but Jin's been left up throughout this right now. I'm wondering if that's what their next ban's going to be. H2K are going to ban the Ivern, so we won't get to see that paired with the Camille this game. Might be the least sin indeed for Memento. Let's see what the last ban Giants side is.
I wouldn't be surprised if Giants actually went for something like a Rek'Sai, just for a bit of an engage, a bit of a frontline. I feel that right now that's kind of what they're lacking. The best form of teamfight engage that they have is with the Azir ultimate. When you have Misfortune Azir, you are thinking, that's a pretty prominent teamfighting comp, right? Especially around the mid game when you look to play around like the Dragon and the Tower. But the fact that Giants are actually rounding things out with a support ban is rather interesting.
Still no Jhin. Let's see if that's what Nuclear takes on this time around. Bot lane for H2K. Let's see them round that one out. The support pool was hit with the Tahm Kench, and there's the Jhin if he gets locked.
And this is why that Tahm Kench ban was interesting, right? Because you're leaving Jhin available. You know that that champion is going to be picked, and it says to me that Giants are comfortable picking Misfortunated AD carry into the Jhin, and they have a means to punish it. They have a means to set up and go for that sort of all-in teamfighting bottom lane.
Okay, so they lock the Zyra for themselves once again. It's a pretty squishy bottom lane, but it does have a lot of damage if they can get the snare off onto the Jhin. Still looking to pick that last one up, and there's a front line. If I ever saw one, the Maokai would make a lot of sense for Flaxish.
So this is actually looking like a Camille in the jungle. We talked about her ability to swing in different places, her versatility, and that being one of the reasons why even after the nerfs, she wasn't removed from competitive play. The fact that she's actually being played by Memento, fascinating for those that may not know, during the Challenger Series qualifiers, this is actually something that was brought out, something that Memento experienced for himself. So I like the fact that it is now making its way into LCS a little bit later on, obviously.
Yeah, maybe he's been saving it in the back pocket.
Perhaps.
But H2K, I mean, they have a very strong bottom lane for themselves. I want to see if Memento makes some early trips down there on that Camille to try and throw them off balance a little bit. So rounding out, Nuclear and Shay have the Jhin. They have the Karma against CQ and Hustlin. A little bit less conventional for these guys. Giants, let's see if they can pull it out in game 2.
Well, H2K, they've drafted themselves a bit of a scaling composition, a lot of pick potential, really good ability to move around the map with the Karma speed up on her E, the ability to use the Realm Warp. You have the TP from Poppy 2. Whereas Giants, they've gone a little bit more towards team fighting. You have the Maokai to force these engages. Camille has a lot of split pushing and dueling potential, but I'm really looking at this Azir, MF, and Zyra combo that's going to be massive in these mid-game fights.
Well, we'll see if they'll be able to pull it off. I mean, the thing for Giants has not necessarily been their drafting, but the execution, especially in the later stages of the game, when that combo is going to be at its most potent. Losark taking the big risk for his team there. Giants leaving it all on the line. They're trying to get a win here over the favored H2K, but they find themselves down 1. They could be in danger of going out this week without getting a single game.
And that would suck. I mean, that is
to
not
say the least. By the way, that's been like that'd be 3 weeks in a row for them. I mean, they've had some tough opponents. In all honesty, you have to look at back the last couple of weeks. They've had the Unicorns, they've had G2, and now H2K. I mean, that's some tough hombres to deal with.
It really will be. Now, Giants, this could be the opportunity to upset H2K, and they have a very interesting draft, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not they can pull it off.
Yeah, I like the experimentation out of Giants. If you guys at home like it, think it's enough to take home a win, don't forget to keep those Twitter fingers a-going. Hashtag GIA win over at LOE Sports, but H2K, they're looking to close this one out with a clean 2-0. If you think that's the case, hashtag H2K win. We're about to find out as we're on the Rift.
That is a deer.
I was going to say that's a sweet view, but I know you like to focus on animals.
I do enjoy.
That one's real, right?
That one is real. That one is real. Now,
it's really digital.
It certainly is. Now, the Camille jungle is kind of what we have to look at early on into the game. I'm curious as to what pathing Memento will take, whether or not he'll focus on early jungling or whether or not he'll actually look for a couple of early ganks. Because the big problem with Camille in the jungle is actually her ability to get farm, right? Because she is pretty gold dependent. She kind of wants that Trinity Force, which is very expensive. One of the issues that Hecarim has always had. And the fact that Giants are playing this composition, which I suppose has a lot of risk to it. The fact that if Camille even slightly falls behind in the jungle could result in their detriment is kind of one of the reasons why Giants, when it comes into game 2, have actually really struggled to show any kind of success in any of their previous games throughout the LCS so far.
Yes, indeed. And Giants have absolutely had trouble in every single second game of the series that they have had throughout this week. I mean, they've had some solid game ones, but it just seems to fall apart for them after the fact. And it's not just late game, it's the second game. It seems like they're getting demoralized.
And when you look at H2K, they have been very convincing in their game 2.
That is about as opposite as it gets.
Both teams are very similar in their game 3 and their game 1s. But at game 2, for some reason, H2K, they just turn on, whereas Giants, they just fall apart. And I think that the biggest evidence of this is when you watch back Giants versus Unicorn of Love last week. In game 2, you could see the point at which their mentality just broke. Because they just gave up. Like, their bottom lane died 2v2. It was almost like the entire team realized there's nothing we can do, we've lost. And then everything just fell apart. It descended into chaos. Unicorns of Love were finding fights left, right, and center. And Giants, here's hoping that they have the mental fortitude to be able to have a similar sort of early game that they had in game 1.
Well, I think they definitely have the tools. There's a lot of hope for this team if they can, in fact, get themselves rolling early. Memento finishing his double buffs. Jankos on the hunt to see if he can find anything back. And Memento talking at the beginning of the game, how, hey, every time I face this guy, he completely wrecks me. Well, he turned it around last time, and on this Camille, he's got the potential to do it again. Ottawamne is a little bit low versus Flaxus right now, but Flaxus is fighting inside these minions, and it's going to be Jankos around the side. Flaxus better keep his flash finger ready, as he does. See if he can get a reverse bait. In comes Memento. Level 3 to level 2 right now. He's going to get the tack sweep on, and they're going to get themselves first blood on the Camille. We're not done yet. Flashing forward, Odo brings the hammer down, and there's just flashes all over the map right now as Febiven is looking to get himself one, and Knight's coming up from River. Can Flaxus survive? He's put in Rune Prison, gets a twisted advance. In comes Knight. It's 1 for 1 more so far, and Knight wants another kill, but he takes a tower shot too far. Febiven will clean him up.
Monumental exhaust from Febiven to keep his top laner alive, but what looked like another great start for Giants ends in disaster, losing 3 kills to H2K, and falling behind in the early game is not what Giants wanted at the start of their game 2.
4 minutes in and we got 4 kills already, Vedius. They really focused quite a lot, a huge commitment, and flashes burned all the way around, but H2K just calm, cool, collected. Let's see it again.
Flaxus has just been playing hyper aggressively in the top lane, taking advantage of the shield being on cooldown. He doesn't realize that once again, Jankos is coming in for another level 2 gank, and he's forced to flash relatively early. Notice on your minimap, the mid lane Rise has already started to make the map movement up top lane. But Giants feel they can turn this play around because Memento is there. This was the mistake that Giants made. They should have just taken the fact that Flaxis was able to disengage and just backed away from the fight. Febiven would have lost some farm mid, Azir would have been able to get some push priority, but instead they go for the commitment. Azir tries to come in and turn something back, but it's this exhaust that is able to buy enough time for Odo to get away and Febiven to get himself another kill.
Oh man, 2 kills on the rise to kick things off. Yeah, that's
Feels
gotta
bad,
hurt.
man. That is a feels bad man if I've ever seen one.
All right, well, let's check back in with the bottom lane because this is where things haven't happened yet. Didn't happen last game for a while either. But EQ and Hustlin, they had this really interesting combination in lane. It just hasn't done a whole lot for them yet. Well, we're waiting for those late game fights. It's going to be a while, though.
It just backtracking to that point that you made down the bottom lane. When you look at this duo pair, Zyra's early push isn't the strongest, which means that you can actually get a lot of lane control with the Karma and Jhin very early on, like level 1, level 2. And what H2K have done successfully is get an early push, and then they set up the wave to prevent Giants from actually being able to get adequate farms. So they effectively got zoned away from that early farm, and they were denied a lot of the early pressure that they have with Desire and Misfortune.
All right,
They're yet to go back yet and pick up that Dirk, and this could very well swing the bottom lane back in their favor, though.
It could be, but you got to be careful now when your mid lane already kind of gave up a pretty big advantage. Your top lane has been punished quite a lot. You really need your bottom to kind of pick up that slack. And well, they're even on farm for the time being, but what's the game plan for Giants here?
Well, they need to continue to play passive for the time being. The biggest risk that they have is the 1-3-1 that's going to come later, because while they do have a great team fighting composition, if they can force fights around the dragon, that's where Giants can really shine. However, what H2K can do is just never allow that to happen and constantly divide and conquer. They can split Giants up and prevent them from ever really being able to force a successful team fight. And when your mid lane is level 6 already and is forcing the Azir back, things are looking a little bit worrying for Giants in the early game.
Yeah, that rise is going to get accelerated. We saw Knight dishing some damage last game on that champion, but now Febiven at level 6, not even 7 minutes into this game. And once he does get into those side lanes himself, he's going to be a terror to deal with. I don't know if anyone on Giants' side will really be able to answer him. Maybe Mementos Camille if he gets rolling pretty heavily.
Looking at Jankos now, trying to gain some vision control around the bottom half of the map. While Memento is here, he just isn't strong enough to stop the invade coming out from both Jankos and Che. And this was one of the risks that we talked about. Memento being on this Camille, falling behind early is really going to affect his ability to be impactful later on. But what we saw from game 1 was Memento's fantastic early game performance. So I don't want to count him out entirely, because I think there are windows for him to come back into the game.
Absolutely. And Camille is a champion that definitely can do quite a lot, honestly with a little, but he's going to need all the help he can get right now. Jankos was able to take the red buff away with the help of Che, and they've turned on to Knight in Rune Prison. He goes and he misses the divide, but he's able to move forward. A flash from Che, quite aggressive, not netting the kill. But Knight used everything to get out of that gank.
Knight overextending just a little bit in the mid lane. He should have had a vision of the evade from Jankos and Che in his jungle. Didn't respect the possibility of a collapse coming in from Jankos. So he does have to end up burning his flash. But he does get Che's flash and Febiven's flash in return. So while he will lose a bit of farm and experience, it's not all bad as Odo.
Odo's going really deep on this. He takes a tower shot. He did not want to. Flash, and the sapling touches down. Flaxish is able to get a solo kill up top.
Wow, props to Flaxish for punishing the dive from Odo. And now you actually start to see Giants putting a bit of aggression down bottom.
Yeah, Hustlin, though, he steps forward. He's taking tower shots. In comes Memento around the side. They turn their attention to Che, and they'll have enough to take him down. It goes Hustlin's way, though. The curtain call is now open, and Hustlin's going to have to tank for his AD carry. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3, and they flash to get away from them all. Giants will pull the disappearing act, but Memento now is going to have to flash himself as he was caught between Febiven and the wall there.
Well, Pyro, we talked about not counting Giants' early game out just yet, and they force a couple plays all across the map, getting themselves a solo kill up top lane, as well as getting themselves a kill and a successful dive down the bottom. It's actually going to close the gold gap a little bit and really do a lot of favors for Memento, especially as he's playing this Camille.
Yeah, this gives some heart to the Giants team for sure, but man, look what they invested in. It's almost every summoner still down for them. Memento's got his smite up, of course, because it's on a low cooldown, but Flax is literally the only one that has anything. He's got his teleport. That's what's going to help him right now as he's in the lane, but up against Odoamne, see if he can solo him out once again. It was a rare mistake from Otoamne that really started that whole thing.
Big mistake. It looked like he just wanted to go for a bit of a trade. He realized that Flaxish was underneath his turret and he could get an advantageous trade out onto him, but he didn't respect Flaxish's turn around, rooted underneath the turret, and there's nothing that he can do about it.
And this is the problem that H2K have had a couple times when they play a little bit cocky when they think they have the lead. Losing a lot of deaths to Rocket in that other game, and it might happen again. Otoamne stuck in the Hex deck. Ultimatum, no flash available. Friends are coming, but it's too late. Flaxish with the kill.
Another advantage gained for Giants in the top lane. They can now keep the pressure going. Odo still not having his flash available. He does have TP, which means he should be able to get back into lane. But another fantastic early game from Giants. So the fact that Odo went for this, it was a mistake, right? There's nothing to it. You can see he tried to go for a trade, and then for some reason he just forgets that Flaxish can just root him underneath that turret. And while all that's going on, Giants' bottom lane had gone back to base. They got that dirt, which means now they can start getting the push. They trade more off. Their trading potential is a lot stronger. And by forcing H2K underneath the tower, this is when Memento can come in and successfully set up the dive. Which is great for Giants bottom lane. This is what we want. You mentioned it earlier on, Pyra, how if your top lane is failing, then your bottom lane needs to sort of step up. But it was a little bit of an unfortunate situation for Hiku there as he realized, oh, it's okay, my AD carry will block for me. And he's like, nope, flash. Like, oh, I got a flash too.
Yeah, a lot of flashes burned in that one. And that was the best part about it, was he flashes, and at the same moment, Hiku goes, wait, you're not covering for me anymore? Oh, damn. Okay, at least they got out with their lives. And the cooldowns are coming back pretty soon. It's just going to be a minute or two more. Jankos is getting the smite down. He's been really keeping Memento on the back foot, keeping him out of his own jungle.
Just want to say, I would take a bullet for you, but can Hustlin take these bullets?
We'll see. One shot, that's going to be a second. He opens up a big Stranglethorns, and Hiku with the combo is not enough to get the kill. The plants can't do it. Febiven is limping away, and Memento steps right into 3. The execution was not enough.
The bloodlust in his eyes was too strong, and Memento ends up going down. Good play from H2K to punish the lack of flash from Uslin.
Man, that's sad. He went for the big anime play. I want to get that big sweep, knock him down, and he just ran into a face full of H2K members.
Yes, he did. The exhaust from Jay was on point, punishing the fact that Memento was left by his lonesome. But have a look at the backtrack here. You can see the use of the Rise ultimate from H2K to catch Uslin as he's trying to set some wards down. Very close. And being able to get the kill onto Febiven. You can just see it here. Febiven, or Memento even, saying, I've got this. But then he doesn't.
A hair's breadth away, and
Knight
then
does
took him
redeem
down.
it, though.
Yeah, Knight was able, it's okay, I got that. Off the back, it seems like Giants are picking up a little bit of slack where things happen. So 5-5 in kills, it's a 600 gold game. Mountain Dragon, though, is the Drake du jour, but Jankos is caught in the pit, taking a little more than he bargained for. H2K gonna back out of that one for now. Get the Skull Crab vision, try to come back around again and set things up a little later.
I like to see that Giants aren't just giving up pressure, though. They're actually trying to respond to the aggression from H2K. They're actually trying to force plays around the map. This proactivity is a key part of what they need to enable their comp to succeed, because if Febiven gets too far ahead, then there is no one on the side of Giants that can go into a slide lane and really deal with it. So the 4-man unit of Giants needs to be stronger so that Giants can force H2K into the team fights that they so desperately want.
Giants definitely playing with a lot of tenacity here. It's the kind of thing that gives us hope for this squad. See, Knight is caught up. He sends a soldier out, but Febiven's already out of range here. Flaxish might be caught out for a moment as Jankos was looking for a collapse, but that's not happening. A lot of vision investment for Giants on this bottom side, looking to see if they can get the Drake. It's been 13.5 minutes and nobody's been able to secure it. Memento, though, is looking to secure himself a kill. It's flashed out by Febiven. Jankos coming in for the 2v2. The tag sweep, they turn to Jankos, and he just blows away Memento. Knight flashing, but the party portal is not going to be bringing anybody there. Hustlin turns on in, and we've seen a couple fights like this that just keep high-fiving their way in. Flaxish is going to get bopped out of there, and it is a 1 for none.
Both junglers were around the mid lane waiting for a possible gank, but we may very well see a fight right now.
Oh, flashing in, Flaxish going, and Febiven is going to get taken down. Knight finishes the job with a poke from a soldier. Flaxish still tanking on the back half. The curtain call opens, Stranglethorns dodged away. Jankos getting the finisher onto Flaxish, and Odo knocking them into the wall. Nuclear taking that kill. It's 2 for 1 on the aftermath.
Giants do what they can to try and get something in return, but H2K is saying no. If you're going to try and force this fight, we are going to punish you for burning so much into getting that kill. They're able to lock down Flaxish, they get themselves the return kill, and they're going to be able to get a bit more control over the top half of Giants' jungle.
When Giants have a play, H2K just keep on finding the answer. They get themselves advantages, little advantages, building up at 15 minutes. The gold is only 2,000 ahead, but that still seems pretty significant. Let's take a look at this again.
Now it's Memento that tries to force the play from happening, because you can see that what he's waiting for is Febiven to just come a little bit too close to the wall. This is just a lot of the early trading that was happening back and forth between Knight and Febiven, and the moment Febiven steps slightly too close to the wall, that's the opportunity that Memento goes for. But he has now used all of his gap closers, which means that it's so easy to lock him down. He's only level 8, he's pretty squishy. Jankos has completed some of his major items, which means that his burst is too uncontrollable. We already saw an example of that in game 1. And this is where things start to descend into a bit of madness, because Giants want to try and get something back. All of the members of H2K are here, and this is where Giants see a possible opportunity, because they know that Poppy isn't there, they catch Febiven out of position, they get the kill, but then Flaxish, there's too much single target CC, he's not tanky enough early on into the game to be able to disengage successfully from this fight, and I don't think he can disengage.
Don't think he's getting out of this one. Febiven is tanking tower shots, but not nearly enough. Odo is a bro, he steps in and finishes that one. Jankos, Febiven having a ball this game now. Let's see if Giants can equalize with the tower on the bottom side, looking to take tower first blood. It has been all about the kills this game, and they will get it. They get themselves closer in that gold game. Let's see if they can turn for Dragon. Should be able to do it.
Good response from Giants to be able to trade the life of their top laner for an objective in the bottom lane. We'll close the gold gap a little bit, regardless of losing that top tower. But they still come out as a net game, because Giants will get themselves the Matt and Drake, as well as the tower in the bottom.
And they really wanted this one for a while. You could see so much investment. I mean, there are so many wards from Giants in this bottom side of the H2K jungle. And Odo was finally going to be able to finish off his tower, but it's much slower going. So even though Flaxish got taken down pretty quickly there, Giants did fire back. Memento stopped up for just a second, but they're going to try to defend on the mid. Knight getting blown away for a second, and Memento throws him in the ultimatum, but he's taken down. And Jankos gets a heal from Nuclear. He's out of there. Curtain call tanked by Flaxish for just a moment, seeing if they can stop this, but Odo is hunting around the side. They're trying to clear this mini wave to see if they can get the siege on.
Knight is pretty low on health. H2K feel confident as Odo looking for that possible opportunity.
The mini wave is evaporated though. Giants, they've got themselves some power. With the Nashor's Tooth completed for Knight, it's a little bit more damage that they're going to have a hard time dealing with.
Now H2K, they were able to come out ahead of that exchange, but you're really starting to see the struggle that Camille has when she falls behind. She requires so much gold investment to be really relevant in the mid game, and she's yet to even complete a major item. You have to rush the Tiamat for the early jungle clear. You want the Trinity Force because of how great an item it is, but when you're before the play, when you're 1, 3, and 2 down in levels, it's so difficult for you to have an impact, which means that every time you go in, H2K quickly punish and shut you down.
Yeah, that's the big problem right now, and they're going to be able to throw their weight around on this bottom turret. Flax just can't do much about it, and that's the risk. As you said, in picking a champion like Camille, the goal difference for the teams may not be quite as much, but 1,500 of that is just between the junglers right now. Memento is really struggling, and a lot of it kind of stemmed from the very early game play where he might have gotten one early kill, but then H2K answered back. Speaking of, they get themselves an outer. It's 2-2. Memento tried to go in for the play onto Odo Omne, but he was too slippery.
I like the fact that Giants are responding, but now you see Febiven in the bottom lane.
Let's see if he can make the play onto Flaxish. He is gonna get taken down. Febby shreds through his health bar with a little help from Jankos.
This backtracks to what we were talking about earlier on. If Febiven gets too far ahead, who in the side lane is going to be able to deal with him? You can't send Knight because it's very difficult for him to join into these big fights if he's forced off into a side lane, but also he really can't 1v1 the Rise either. Flaxish is demonstrating how difficult it is, especially when you have 0 magic resistance in your itemization. And H2K just needs to keep playing this style, keep sending Rise off to a side lane, keep Poppy up in the top, have your 3-man unit in mid, and Giants are just struggling to find answers.
Indeed they are. You know, the other funny thing about trying to deal with Febiven one-on-one is it's never Febiven one-on-one. Jankos has kind of been giving him buddy system for a while here, but I mean, he nearly solos him down before it's all said and done.
This is the correct way to play around when you have someone like a Rise. Ooh, this isn't.
Hold on a minute. Febiven finding a little more than he bargained for here. He's trying to polish off Memento, but it will not be the case. Memento getting a little revenge. He gets himself another kill. Baron spawning in about 5 seconds, but I don't think either team's in any position to go for it right now. Only 20 minutes into the game, 7-11 in kills.
So a bit of a mistake there from Febiven.
Speaking of, holy moly! Hustlin doing his best New Dawn impression. That Zyra was not tanky enough. A double kill with the collateral damage from Jankos, who is having a hell of a game.
H2K punished the rotation from Giants through their jungle. Bit of a mistake there from Giants, not realizing that they don't have control over their own jungle. And now H2K can try and force this, but...
Wait a minute, Jankos goes deep. He tried to get the pick off on a Hikyu, but way too far, and he gives up his life that time around, so that's gonna halt H2K's progress.
A lot of individual mistakes coming out from both teams right now. Febiven overextending in the bottom lane. Giants, Hustlin and Memento not respecting the lack of control they have over their own jungle. And then Jankos just getting too close to the turret, thinking he had more damage than he did.
Yep, so he's gonna have to ponder that one as he goes back to base. The short route. Edge of Night completed for him as well, so do have a lot of damage on this H2K lineup. The Rise scaling up, still sitting on the tier. Che's caught right now. Let's see if Giants can make something happen out of it. Bullet time, Che dodges most of it, but the ultimatum is there, and there is nowhere you can go. Memento is getting another kill now. He's had 2 in the last couple of minutes. This might be what the Camille needs.
Good punish from Giants as Che trying to set up vision without proper support from his team is caught out. Giants get themselves another kill. It means that now they can maintain vision control around the Baron area. And to be fair to the Giants, they're not actually at that big of a gold deficit. A lot of the small individual mistakes that have been coming out from H2K have enabled Giants to get a couple of kills to themselves, get a couple of objectives. And if Memento can complete his training force, if he can complete a bit of magic resistance, he could be the answer to Febiven off in the side lane.
Yeah, and Febiven's still only a 2-item Rise, still trying to stack that tier up at the time being, so Giants still have some time on this clock. And if they do manage to open up a fight, they can get themselves objectives. They have the one Mountain Dragon to give themselves a little bit of extra damage to those. The Baron would be easier to take down for themselves. So H2K, you know, they may be the ones moving around the map, controlling the pace right now. But we've seen them get punished for stepping too far forward. It's only 22 into this game. And there is another Dragon coming up, but it's only an Ocean. I think H2K should have the numbers, should have the vision control to finish this one off. They've really been wanting that mid turret, but Giants keep saying no.
Giants have a lot of wave clear available to them. Has made things a little bit difficult for H2K when it comes to properly sieging. You have to bear in mind that Graves, pretty short range. Jhin, not the best at taking towers. Yeah. So it is a little difficult for H2K.
Comp slipped a little from game number 1 for sure. We saw Giants not having a whole lot of wave clear that time around. Che is waiting and baiting.
He has no flash.
Okay, he sends a Mantra Q, and Hikyu was the target intended, but he dodges out most of the damage, and Jankos blows his collateral. Let's see, a teleport completed now from Flaxish. They look for Odo Wamne, but he's way too tanky to do much about it.
Jankos just exploded all over Hikyu, and he just dodged it all. Hikyu just ignored it.
Yeah, and that seems like a pretty good reaction when somebody tries to explode all over you. Jankos is looking for a gank, or rather a collapse around the back of this fight. Let's see if Giants can scatter in time. They do. Really like this 5-man unit. The Phalanx is hard to break through. They don't even have a Pantheon.
Have you ever attempted to break through a Phalanx before?
No, and I don't know if H2K are going to be able to do it, to be honest. Yeah. So now, hey, I know I'm old for esports, but I'm not an ancient warrior, all right?
Just thinking back to your glory days of fighting in the war, breaking through those phalanxes. I could see you being a leader of phalanx destruction.
You've been giving me a suspicious amount of compliments this game. First you said you take a bullet for me. Now you're saying I'm a great warrior. I don't know if I believe you, Vetty.
Well, what you should believe is H2K's great objective control around things like the Dragon.
Trying to get that mid tower. Curtain calls. This time Memento is going to tank the bullet. Tank 2 bullets for Knight. And this should give H2K enough oomph to finally finish that one off. Still, they're mobilizing. Giants are to try and push back.
Well, Nuclear went off pheasant hunting And it was enough actually to force the Azir away from the turret. So now H2K will finally be able to get themselves that turret. So even though
that was way too deep a reference. That took me like 5 seconds, man. It's good though, I'll give you that. All right, but I mean, now you can see H2K really kind of getting their side push going. They've got Febivin on the side wave. They're not really pushing down to the bottom, but Odoamne is going to be a bit slower about that. It seems like they're slowly pushing their edge, but the gold game is still very close.
It really is. Giants, they are at a slight deficit, 3,000 gold behind, but the Azir has completed 2 big items. H2K as well, completing a lot of the core of his lethality build. Once he gets a Black Cleaver, he'll be in a good position for these team fights. And again, we're seeing a shift from the Jins, moving away from the full lethality build to more the late game scaling, more itemization, to have a little bit more value as the game progresses.
Yeah, and it'll add some more power to them because they have the Rise late game will be big. They have Jankos who's already having a fantastic game with a very heavy lethality build already on this Graves. But more to the items, too. I mean, a big hope for Giants is, finally that Trinity Force is now completed for the Camille. Let's see if they can make a collapse happen, but they might be the ones getting collapsed on. Odoamne, nope, he's going to be backing out. So you can just see them trying to collapse the pressure. But then, nope, back to the side lanes as soon as it doesn't look like it's happening.
But notice the difference around the map as Memento gets caught.
Oh, the leash is on. Jankos is there. The damage from Memento, there is so much. The curtain call's been opened. Jankos can just take him down, and he does. While Giants were occupied trying to dive this tower, H2K's going to get melted through. Flaxus is left for dead. And he might be tanky, but not nearly enough. Maybe he can finish off Nuclear before all said and done. Throws the sapling way too late. It is 3 kills to 1 as they manage to take down Shay. Giants, that's a consolation prize for these guys.
Giants are the ones that try to force the fight, but it is H2K that are able to come out on top. The fact that Giants invested so many resources into just diving that tower will result in a teamfight loss and a possible Baron for H2K.
Not a lot they can do to contest this while Memento's still busy on the respawn, and with the smite down, it's official. H2K secure themselves the Baron and a 4K gold lead. 5, I should say. I can't math.
Now things get really difficult for Giants, because if you can't even win these mid-game fights, then the core strength of your composition falls out the window. Memento is unable to get a successful engagement off. He's quickly shut down. Giants are able to dive underneath the turret, but then they don't have any disengage tools. There are no ways for them to back away from the fight once it has started. And if you're going to use all of your tools to just kill the enemy support, then there's no way you're going to be able to win the rest of the fight.
No, and we need to see more from Memento because he goes in so hard, heavy commitment to just try and take down Shay, and he just has no way to get out when things get hairy, and he didn't even get any damage off to begin with. He got tethered up, and I mean, that's what really stopped him short for Jankos to just tag in and get the collateral down. So we need to see him making a smarter play up against this H2K squad if they want to have any chance of taking this to game number 3. Giants have not been able to do that all split long against any team. They've had some rough opponents of late, but H2K aren't letting up the pressure.
Meanwhile, H2K maintaining that perfect Game 2 record, or looking to do so, are in a good position to try and close things out. So now we see once again the 1-3-1 being set up, or 1-2-2 I suppose you could argue. H2K, Jankos just claiming control over the bot side jungle so he can rotate depending on where the biggest minion wave is. He can just help with the tower siege. And H2K can just slowly work their way into the base. And if you're Giants, the big problem that you have is if you try and force a fight in mid, maybe you go for a collapse onto the Rise. Maybe you try and shut down Odoamne. The problem is H2K are then just going to take a tower somewhere else on the map. Yeah. And you just get divided, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Just like they were trying to do to H2K last time around. I mean, they have this big combo. You've got the Azir, you've got the MF, you've got the Zyra. But they just haven't really been able to execute it well. A couple of good fights, but Memento's gone a bit too deep. Flaxus has just kind of been left for dead when things have been getting bad. And it feels like it's too little too late right now. H2K looking for this end game. With the Baron empowered minions, it's hard for Giants to really clear this one out. Memento gets caught in a rune prison, and look at that damage. Febivin is rolling, and so is Jankos. These guys have been having a blast this game. They immediately portal straight to mid, get themselves another. 6 towers to 2 on the game right now. H2K in pretty position to close this game out.
Really like these map movements from H2K. First you send Jankos bot. He knows he can swiftly move up top lane. He exerts a bit of pressure, gets a bit of poke. Then he makes his way up top side as now a fight stick kicks off.
Oh, they knock Jankos right into the ultimatum, but Knight nearly gets taken down and the curtain call's opened up. Shay's gonna have to flash the last of the damage. Knight is still gonna survive. Protect the president. is the name of the game for Giants. They get themselves one pick onto Jankos, but Hustlin still dies in the aftermath, and Febvin is unopposed on the top side.
But Giants should be able to defend this. The fact that they were able to find themselves a fight is good as Febvin goes in.
Yeah, Hikyu's got to live through that one. Let's see if Memento can tag his way in. Febvin just gets swiped by the tag sweep, but it's not going to be enough to even deter him from continuing this push. Flax is getting knocked away from the minions as he tries to clear them out. Bleeding towers right now for the Giants. Up in the top, they've got none left, and it's minions marching on the inhib. And Otoamne is going to be able to finish this one off. Knight going to try to push him back with Nuclear there as well. They had enough damage to get the job done.
3 versus 5 at the very end there for H2K, but they were persistent. They felt that they could continue to break into the base of Giants, who invested a lot into trying to get that kill down onto Jankos. If they had gotten the shutdown, it may have been enough to buy some more time. Maybe they could still get a couple more items under their belt, look for another opportunity to force a fight, maybe around the Baron. But just from Jankos alone, Giants took so much damage. I mean, Hustlin didn't even survive.
I mean, Jankos is full lethality too. Like, they just blow through the armor and health bars, and now he can just pretty much freely take another dragon. They're not too fussed about this because it's only an Ocean Drake, but at the same time, that Baron was pretty big value town for H2K. And now Giants, I mean, they have vision all over the map, but they've lost so much, and one more lost fight could be the end of this.
Now, if you're H2K, you have to remember that you don't actually need the Baron. You're strong enough as is to close the game out without it. And I think if you're trying to solidify yourself as a top team, arguably, it would be better to try and close the game out without having to rely on Baron, but it also limits the amount of risk of losing that Baron and giving Giants a window back into the game.
Yeah, that's a good point. At the same time, it's going to be harder and harder for Giants to make things happen. They really need to get a big combo fight, and the way H2K are playing just too slippery, not letting an engagement happen from the Giants side, really utilizing those globals that we talked about in the pick and ban phase to their fullest effect, to just kind of kite Giants around the map, keep them running in circles. Let's see if they can keep it up.
Well, right now, they actually have no one pushing on mid lane. Which I think is a bit of a mistake because there is an exposed inhibitor. Their priority is on the turret, and here they go.
Okay, curtain call. They're going to try to zone him out. One shot dodge. The second's going to connect onto Knight. Hikyu taking a lot of damage, and Nuclear says thank you very much. In comes Odo to knock Knight into that tower. He's going to get taken down, shut down by Febvin. The tower just keeps pecking away at the health bars, but it is not enough to deter this H2K squad with only 2 members left, and Hustlin bleeding out and trying to hustle his way back to the fountain to heal. This looks like it could be game over right now, right here. Memento trying to keep himself relevant in this fight. The hammer, the windup, the pitch. Otoamne says, stay right where you are.
H2K with the clean fight force to break into their first inhibitor, transition it into their second. They can likely take the third. The question is, do they go for the game end or do they just disengage? I think the safe thing to do is back off.
Yeah, they've gotten most of the base, but they don't need to overcommit. This is the development from H2K that we like to see, them not making the big mistakes that can result in Giants trying to turn this one around. 32 minutes. Dead timers are not that long yet. They don't want to risk giving up a big ace and a revenge Baron, so they back off, but all inhibitors are down. It's only Nexus turrets for Giants to defend their base with.
Things are looking rough for Giants, and the way in which H2K forced this fight was really great to watch. Notice that Jankos even used his W to first pop the Edge of Night's shield on the Misfortune. That flank in from Otoamne was enough to lock down Azir, who's the main disengage tool. And then H2K can just continue to siege through the rest of Giants without really much answer. The big thing here is it just results in 3 inhibitors for H2K.
Yep. Little plays like that, too. I think that's what separates some of these really great players from the others. I mean, Jankos is a damn good player. Let's see what he's able to do in this fight. This time around, Giants trying to force something to happen. Flaxish is tanking up a lot of damage. So is Otoamne, but he might be the first casualty in this fight. Never mind! Febvin unloads on Giants. That's a quick 3 kills like that. Flaxish is still sticking around, but not for long. Down he goes. That's the ace. That's gonna be the base. What a victory for H2K.
H2K with a massive team fight win, and that should be more than enough for them to close out the game and take the 2-0.
Flashing forward to just finish the job, wait for the minions to march forward, and just get a mana redemption in at the last second to keep themselves nice and healthy. H2K, what a team fight from them, what a victory, and they will close it out in style, 2-0 over Giants Gaming.
Eventually. It looks like right now H2K,
Now let the minions do the job. That's
they're
fine.
just going to wait and give the minions their moment to shine.
I guess even minions deserve the MVP once in a while, so they finish it, and there it goes. 2-0 on the week for H2K. You can't be too mad at even the few mistakes they made.
But we do have to give props to Giants in the way in which they were able to continue fighting, even when they were put in a deficit early on. Remember that you'd consider them down and out after that horrible level 2, level 3 play that happened up in the top lane. Memento got put behind really hard. The Rise had already gotten himself a kill.
Yeah.
Things were looking bleak for Giants very early on into the game.
They fought back.
Exactly.
In both games.
And that was what was great to see from Giants. The fact that they were resilient, they were looking to find opportunities back into the game. There was even a possibility of Memento getting just enough gold that he could then be able to deal with Featherman in a side lane, but they just never got to that point. And once H2K had solidified a strong enough lead, they were just unrelenting with the pressure.
Yeah, it's hard when the lead is that insurmountable and a team is honestly that much better than you, but I think Giants can definitely take heart from the fact that unlike previous week, they did not break at the end. You could see them still trying to force the fight. And in all honesty, when you've got nothing left for the base, going for that fight, even though they lost it all, I feel like that's just the way you got to go for it. I like the tenacity from this team, and I still think they can make a shot at playoffs. They've just got to find wins against the teams that are a little closer to them in skill.
The thing is, though, when you look at the big picture, now things are getting really tense between Giants and Roccat with regards to Group A, because both of them are fighting for whatever wins they can possibly get. Both of them are doing their best to avoid relegation. That 4th place spot is the ideal. There's always the possibility of making it into playoffs, given that Fnatic is still struggling in the middle of Group A. But when you think of the big picture, H2K are looking like a strong team that are continuing to dominate over the rest of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very encouraging sign for them heading into IEM week. Be facing off against some of the European best teams as well, and some big competitors from across the world. H2K, definitely a few kinks to work out, but
a few.
I think they did quite well.
I think you can't take anything away from them, right? Like, especially Jankos. I think it was enjoyable watching him and Memento and a lot of
He was having a good time that game.
Yeah, there were a lot of back and forth. Level 2 ganks as well from Jankos, something that we haven't seen for a while, but still trying to hold on to that First Blood King title.
Yeah, I mean, we got First Blooded in game number 1. Maybe he thought he had to try and make up for it a little bit more. I mean, Jankos has definitely been having some big performances of late. I really liked him on Graves that time around and his buddy system with Febiven.
I really enjoyed the game overall, and when we also look at the bottom lane, we looked at Nuclear and Che. They had a great performance in week 1. Not really the biggest impactors in game 2, especially when we look at game 2 or this week.
Importantly.
They did. They were a key part of the success. The real star was Febiven. Like, when you think of his success in game 1, the fact that he was able to come back on LeBlanc, get a lot of good picks, find opportunities to make his way back into the game, showed a lot of promise. And then in game 2 on his rise, well, he was just kind of out of control.
Absolutely. But enough from us. Dracos, he's sitting down with Memento after a tough loss to H2K.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, pleased to be joined by Memento.
Hello.
Not quite the result I'm sure you were hoping for, but I want to ask you, we heard you say in a brief video, Jankos is your kryptonite, and I want to know, after playing against him today, how do you feel about that?
He's definitely really good. Like, maybe first game, I did some pretty good counter ganks, and he tried to overforce on mid lane, which actually he got punished for in the end. But I didn't really punish him as hard as I actually could have. And second game, he has basically out-jungled me pretty hard.
It's pretty rough. Can you run us through the thought process on the Camille pick? You guys are one of the first teams to pick her up in the jungle. Did you feel like this is a strong pick you'll see in the future, or is this kind of a sort of a one-time try, something new?
I mean, Camille is really fun, so I mean, I love to play her. But she has some weaknesses, like she doesn't really clear the jungle that well, and she can easily fall behind. So you might see her in the future, but I think it's better on top lane probably.
What do you think were like really your goals with that composition? Do you feel like it could have gone much better if something had gone differently in that game?
I mean, if we didn't fall too behind, then I think we actually would have won, because we had a really strong team comp for the late game, but we ended up like trading a bit bad, and we lost like 3 kills for 1 and 3 for 2, and we felt like we've kept falling behind all the time, and kind of made it really hard, the game. And Graves got really fed, so he basically just one-shot everyone.
Yeah, definitely absolutely brutal to play against the Fed Graves, the lethality. Looking forward for Giants. It hasn't been great so far, but there have been some good moments. I'm curious what's next for you guys and what are the goals in the coming weeks?
I mean, it's really sad to lose because it feels pretty shitty it feels terrible because just coming there to LCS and like play on stage and just like losing in front of everyone, it just feels, it's heartbreaking for me at least because it's just, I can't describe it, I'm just really sad. But coming into the future, we just have to work harder, like we're not good enough. And that's the reality. We have to put more hours into League and we have to just like watch more VODs and practice a lot harder. Like there's no excuse, we just have to work harder, that's all.
I mean, that's, I feel like, a really hard thing for a lot of people to accept, so it's good to hear that you guys kind of acknowledge that and are willing and ready to move forward. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me on this one and coming in after that loss. I hope we can see more from you guys in the future. Hope you can get those wins under your belt, but that is enough from me. That is enough from us. Let's close out the day. Let's send it over to the post-game lobby. Shocks, take it away.
Welcome everybody to the post-game lobby. Thank you so much, Drakos. I'm still here with the Physio and Sven to take a look back at tonight's game's very introspective interview there with Memento. He simply says, you know what, there's no excuses. You got to train harder, you got to do more. But he did also make the point that question marks around the composition, but the problem is if you start by falling behind early, then that's a bigger problem and a bigger hill to climb. And it was kind of an unlucky. Was it unlucky or was it bad play, that top lane dive in the beginning of the game?
I mean, I think, so they got outplayed there, but I don't want to blame, like, Knight for actually going in on Azir and trying to get the kill. He was one hit off, and then he got exhausted and he dies. But the fact he was late to the roam obviously meant he should have just backed away. So it was bad, but also kind of understandable.
Yeah, we are going to take a look at it again.
Great, let's talk about it. It's exactly the same thing. Sven, repeat what I just said.
I mean, it was bad at first, but it got even worse when Knight decided to come top and give up one more kill than he had to, right? Like, the first thing went fine for here. Like, I think, go away, man. So I think same as game one, Memento does a good counter gank on Jankos. Same as game one, he gets a kill on Jankos. But Fabian moves first from mid lane, which I don't know why happens, because Alcy was picked after Ryze, so he should have the winning lane phase. But this is overall a 2-for-1 after Fabian flashed over here and kills Maokai. But then Knight decides to go in, doesn't quite kill Odwamne, and then it goes bad. But just the 2 kills wouldn't be the biggest problem in my opinion.
But exhaust, one hit.
Yeah, but then here he can back off, but he takes a tower hit and...
Did he cancel an auto or did he walk out of range?
I think he was out of range, but he takes a tower hit for no reason and he has a big mini wave, so he could survive that. He didn't have to die there. And even though they got all these kills, I think H2K actually didn't play that well with this advantage. Odamne kind of trolled his advantage away. He was 2-0 with double buffs and he died 1v1, trying to do dive alone.
We got that replay?
Yeah, we have that replay too. Same
That's
question,
right.
unlucky or misplay?
Misplay.
I mean, misplay or miscommunication, because Jankos is technically moving topside here, but the wave is already dead when Odo dives flashes here, and Jankos is turning around.
Turns around.
Odo is just like, where's Jankos? And then he just dies, and he was 2-0 up here.
Yeah.
I had double buffs earlier, and then he uses the flash earlier, gets reganked, and dies again. It's kind of like a bad way of throwing away your advantage that you got so early in the game, and kind of like a bit inexcusable, I would say.
Yeah,
like dying like this twice is bad.
That was bad, obviously, and it was kind of weird because this is exactly what Giants did in game one. They got the advantage, they got Fed Graves, it was like, great, they're winning the game, and then they lost a few fights like around the bottom side of the map, and they kind of like evened out. This game was exactly the same. G2 got the advantage. Oh, sorry, H2K got the advantage. G2 also got some advantages somewhere.
Oh my God, you love G2 so much, you can't stop talking about them.
Yeah, whatever. H2K got the advantage. Then Odamne makes some of these misplays here, and it actually made the game even again until the crucial point.
Until the crucial point that we're going to take a look at after, as we take a look at some fan meets as well. Always lovely to see. There we go. H2K is where you said now it's really over.
Honestly, I think Giants is just a bit lost in what to do. They don't know. Here they have a mid ARAM.
They run in mid.
Yeah, they run down mid, and silence are bad for them. And Memento uses flash late, gets killed. Giants is diving mid tower when Ryze and Jankos is behind them, and Poppy is behind them, and this is never gonna go well for them. Best case scenario, they get like 1 kill here, maybe 1 kill here, and they kill Che. Good for them, right? But they get 3-0 here, and HK gets Baron, and HK did a really well Baron. Like normally with Baron, you get like, let's say three tier 2 towers, and then you kind of wait for next Baron, and then you end. But HK got 5 towers this game, and then they were able to go bot right after that, and they killed someone, and the game was over. Died everyone and killed, like, opened the base basically.
So, gentlemen, Misfits dismantled Vitality on a macro level. You guys outplayed Unicorns of Love on a macro level. H2K is supposed to be our macro level team, objectives-focused team. So is it disappointing to you guys that they give leads away, even though it doesn't lose them the game?
I think in game 1, it was just the early ganks that kind of made them fall behind, and then they actually just evened it out and got back, so that was fine. I think in this game, obviously Odoamne made some mistakes up top lane, and that shouldn't have happened, but every single team fight in this game was heavily in favor of H2K. So I don't really feel like they were in any problems. They were even 2K ahead when the game was finally over, technically.
Fair enough.
I think one thing that shows is that in the first game, Giants had a 1,000 goal lead on Graves after the first 2 ganks, and they were unable to use this advantage. Even after they dive bot lane, they were not able to use this advantage to do anything in the game. They got out macro, they got lane swap on, they got not ahead any more than they were, and it just shows that HK is a better team. And Giants doesn't really know what to do with their leads, whether it's individual leads or if it's like tower leads, and it just showed that HK is a better team today, and yeah. That's what it is.
All right, so not too disappointed, Dad, the Fisho.
No, not today.
Not today.
Not today, because my favorite son is here as well.
How did you like our match against you all?
I like game 1 a lot.
Yeah, that was nice.
Love game 1.
How about our clean game 2?
The clean game 2 was... I actually thought Unicorns had everything under control until like 25 minutes when they started like getting caught left and right, and you guys got back in the game. Then you guys rushed Baron, you took a Baron. It was like, hang on, what's happening here? And then you guys lost late game fights, and it became like a massive mess. I thought it was going to be... It should have been 3
massive
games.
bait.
Massive bait.
No, it should have been 3 games. Come on. If Ryze ulti had been slightly closer to the Nexus, he would have been able to auto-attack a Nexus and kill it. Or I think it was Hilly who didn't flash or something.
Let him talk, man.
He would also...
I agree with that statement, but I think that the way they ended the game, like the backdoor Tamken's Ryze ulti teleport thingy, was the only way they could actually lose the game. I think if they didn't go for the montage, like Lois Sports montage ending, they could just have like Gnar split push the game, like split push slowly into the base, and then just walked it in, but without fighting us like this. But they went for the YOLO end backdoor thingy, and it failed. And it's like, oh, nice, we have a chance of winning now, and we just run down mid. And
2-0.
I think they could have won that game without risking that kind of ending.
But could they have won game 3?
No.
No.
G2 has a tendency to
never know.
lose game 2 in best of series, actually. Like where
Why?
we very rarely lose first game, but we often win the first game. Even in playoffs last year, we lost second game to UL. Second to Splice. It's just like a G2 curse.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
That is the G2 curse.
That's right.
Nothing else.
Nothing has ever happened at any other tournament.
Nothing to see here.
I'm not sure what you're talking about here.
No, me neither. Player of the series, Febivin. Jankos did great. Nuclear did great. Febivin did great.
Yeah,
I'm leaving like 2 people out, sorry.
I think his game 2 was better than his game 1.
Yeah, I agree.
100%. The LeBlanc didn't work too well. Well, it was okay, but it didn't work that well. The build was a little bit off, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think LeBlanc is that good if you have to rush Apple's Scepter first item just to lane against Ryze. Also, he after he got first gank off, he used the flash of Ryze, and then he got forced flash 1v1, and then the entire the double kill disaster happened. So
I think he's seeing himself on the replay monitors that is above. Very funny. Fabian Diepstraat meeting the
No,
fans.
game 2 that was good.
Yeah,
game 2 was really good. I love watching good Ryze players getting like an advantage on the map because you can just make so many plays. I think it's super awesome. I think overall, like Febby, to me, if I had to pick like the best performing overall mid laner, like, I think Perks is getting up there now, especially with his performance in game 1 yesterday. But I think Febvin, like overall, has just been like the most consistent mid laner we've had in Europe, or we have in Europe right now.
I think that is a very good point. I would bring up Power of Evil as well, and he's who we saw in the first series of the day. Misfits, a clean 2 over Vitality. He had some really good moves. He even pulled out new champions, which is something that we've wanted him to do for a very, very long time. And it was so clean.
Yeah, it was actually some of the most one-sided games I've casted.
Ever seen, yeah.
Like, I think at 20 minutes in both games, there was like 12, 13K goal leads for Misfits. And like composition-wise, I never felt like Vitality's comps could almost do anything in these games here. So it was just like, it was so one-sided from draft into mid-game into late game in favor of Misfits. They just completely stomped them.
Is Misfits a scary team to you?
Well, I think Power Evil actually improved a lot as a player. Like, he used to be that kind of guy who was kind of stuck in his own meta, always playing Orianna or Syndra when they were in a meta. But now he's playing the Corki, he's playing the Ryze, champions that he didn't previously play or like to play, or perform well on, for that matter. But now he's playing them, and I think he's doing really well for himself in the mid lane. His build paths are sometimes different than most people build them, but I think he is a good player for his team. Like he builds differently, plays differently for his team, and yeah, he makes it work for his team. I think he's really important, like for his team. I think him and Kakao are the most important people on Misfits right now. Like most games are working from mid jungle to top or to bot lane, depending on what kind of draft they have. So yeah, I think Pahil is really improved player this split.
So are you scared of the Misfits?
No.
Okay,
7-0, man.
Great expose about Power Viva. And Kakao was player of the series today as well.
Yes.
Absolutely crushing it and so enabling for the Misfits. And I even think if we take a look at the standings, we only have 1 day left, so we can take a look at the standings right now in week 5. Misfits are still in second place in Group A because you guys are number 1, of course. And then we have H2K and UOL in Group B. But Misfits' development has just been so incredibly impressive. They seem to do everything right.
Yeah, and I just want to see them play H2K Unicorns right now because I actually think, if I had to say who would win between Misfits and H2K, I think with the way Misfits are playing and have been playing lately, I would put actually, I put my vote on them for now.
Oh, to win? Yeah.
On Misfits. I think Kakao's playing super good. I think there's going to be no like mismatches in terms of lanes across the board at all. And I think Misfits' late game are looking much better, especially around Baron setups. So I actually think Misfits, like it's going to be close obviously, but I think Misfits is looking like, do I dare say the second best team in Europe, or should I just put them? I'm going to put them in the same tier as H2K Unicorns, like they're all three the same.
But you still see them winning versus them in the near future. What do you think,
I can see
Sven?
that, yeah.
I think the top 4 is, as I said earlier, pretty clear. Like G2, H2K, UL, and Misfits are the top 4, and then there's like a second tier of Fnatic and Splice, and then the rest. But I think once we see Misfits play against UL and H2K, we can judge who's the better team. But guys, Misfits only played against us of the top tier teams, right? So it's hard to judge when you lose the top tier team and you win against all the bottom tier teams, right? So yeah.
But then you see like H2K versus Giants today, and it was even for a lot of it. Giants had some good moments here and there, and it came down to like late game fights. And then you watch Misfits against these bottom teams, and it's just like super clean. Most of them, they get like big advantage early. They never really had any threat of losing the game, and then they close it out pretty cleanly. Could have been slightly faster in the first game, but again, that's nitpicking. So I think that they're doing a good job of showing they are a strong team against the bottom teams. But again, we keep seeing this problem where bottom 4 is just so much weaker than like everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Vitality is kind of a train wreck right now. They have a new support every week, whether it's Autofill, Nuke Duck, or it's AOD coming from...
next week.
Yeah, and then they're just like a weird team. They have a new support every week for like the last 2 weeks. Achani was always inting it, so Nuke Duck support, then AOD. They have weird drafts every game. They don't really have like a clear identity or game style, so being clean against Vitality isn't necessarily a good measurement of how good you are as a team, right?
They had Splice 2-0 as well the week before.
That is true. That is a good measurement. Splice is kind of not sure what's happening to them right now. They're having a slow start, but they also show hopes some here and there, and they're a middle-tier team, I would say.
Yeah.
Giants and Vitality are both on the low end, but Giants at least show some hope once in a while. But
So is there really a 3-tier system here, or are we talking 2 tiers? Or maybe 3 with you guys on top.
I'd say 4 tiers.
Yeah.
There's the G2, and then there's the next tier is the Unicorns, H2K, Misfits.
yeah.
And then it's Fnatic and Splice, and then it's the bottom 4. Like you can maybe even argue that Origin and Rocket are even further down.
Yeah, you could argue a 5th tier where you say Rocket and then OG maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, 5th tier. So you mean like 1, 2, 3, 4,
relegation
5,
tier.
like in the standings.
like a tier basically under Vitality.
But there are already 5. So
Actually,
it's not
Vitality should be down that tier as well.
Yeah,
right now.
but Vitality kind of gotten the way down, worked their way down to that tier as well. So, yeah.
The bottom one is it's tough for these teams, man.
It is
I don't know how
super
they're
tough.
gonna win. I actually don't know.
We don't know. We know that the top teams, what they are fighting for, and that's for the Spring Split Finals. We're going to Hamburg, and that is on the horizon. It's not that far away. Tickets will also go on sale on March 1st. And for more information, head over to eu.lolesports.com. Are you planning to win in Hamburg?
He's gonna buy tickets.
It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not planning it, but I would definitely like to win in Hamburg. Yeah.
Against who? Yeah, who would you like to beat on the big stage?
Oh, pick any team.
I mean, it's a tough question, I think.
Okay.
Does it matter?
No.
You just beat anyone?
Yeah, like it doesn't really matter who we play against, but I just want to get right now I want to get first place in our group so we can get the first playoff seed, which is really good for you in playoffs. So, and then whoever is our opponents in playoffs is our opponents, and that's who we have to beat.
And in the meantime,
It doesn't really matter who you beat as long as you beat them.
but in the meantime, you can win IEM Katowice, right? Because that's
right.
what's going on next week. We're going to take a look at the groups. Once again, as we did yesterday, we have 3 European representatives at the Intel Extreme Masters, and we're going to take a look at the groups in 1 second. But first, general expectations. You know that the weight of Europe is again on your shoulders, and we know the whole story,
Thanks
the
for
vacation
reminding
memes, all that. But how realistic is the chance that G2 goes home with the trophy there?
I don't want to say something stupid, but it's nice that there's no KT, SK Telecom. Nice that Rocks Tigers doesn't have the same lineup as they had before. They're all obviously a bit weaker teams there than there could have been. Like there's no SKT, as I said earlier, there's no Rocks Tigers. EG is arguably a bit weaker than they were before, maybe.
A lot weaker.
Yeah.
So you beat the Unicorns yesterday, then we have Kongdu and the Flash Wolves.
Yeah.
So.
It's nice that there's Kongdu Monsters and Rocks Tigers with a different roster than before compared to what it could have been, right? So it's looking good for the West, or EU, I should say. There's no NA teams anymore.
Do you agree that if we don't get at least 2 European teams in the semifinal, it will be a huge disappointment? With like
I
the
don't
teams
want to say
there?
anything stupid, as I said earlier, so I'm
So
not going to
is
say
this like
anything.
is this like a team briefing thing? Because we heard it from Oslot yesterday as well. He's like, I don't want to say anything stupid. So, 'cause, you know, last year we said big things and we expected big things and we didn't. So I feel like there's kind of a team strategy thing going on here. Which is
I would
good.
agree that last year G2 had some moronic statements, like Joey said that if they were at IM Katowice, they would have won the entire thing when SKT was there. Like, come on, right? But I think we're trying to kind of like go down a bit of mentality, like from the bad boy image and all this kind of stuff, and be not necessarily humble, but always have more respect for everyone. Not try to be like having expectation for yourself is gonna make you let down when you don't win. So yeah, maybe.
I mean,
yeah.
respect, obviously, with the change, but I think, like I can say then, if you look at G2 Esports, the best team in Europe, playing really well at the moment, going into IEM, a tournament where it's kind of lacking the greatest teams from the major regions, except for Flash was coming in from LMS.
And
then
G2.
obviously G2 now from Europe. So, like,
We'll put the pressure
you
on
are
your
allowed
shoulders.
to expect a lot from G2 at this tournament. I
Thanks,
think you're
Mr.
allowed to do that.
Thanks for the pressure.
I'm just saying, like, I'm expecting them at least to make it to top 4, and I actually think they're
Make
gonna,
sure.
Ooh, the gauntlet is strong.
I'm gonna say they're gonna make it all the way to the final.
But are they going to win?
Well, that's the one.
Would you
that's
mind?
tricky.
Would you be fine with either team winning? A European team, that is.
Any European team can win.
There's 3 of them there.
I want
Avi
a full
know
European
that.
final.
I know that Katowice is technically in Europe, and G2 has not lost a series in Europe for 1 year. So there is that going for us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
That's the key
this,
thing.
yeah.
Plus, you get to go on a bus ride with all the other teams.
Yeah,
with
that's really great.
H2K and the Unicorns of Love, a bus with Wi-Fi. We heard it's a 6-7 hours.
Yeah,
6
that's so
hours.
nice. I can't wait.
You're really tall, so it might be annoying
Perfect
for
for
you.
you. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because every bus
Need
has
like
tons
3
of leg room.
you need like
obviously.
4
That's
seats
great.
to lay down.
Good stuff.
Oh. Do you think it's going to influence your performance after? Because we've seen, like, you know, Misfits there will go up and against Unicorns of Love and H2K after, so you kind of will be showing a lot of things already? Or do you think if you're at a certain level, it doesn't matter what you show and what you don't show because you outplay teams either way?
I mean, it might matter a little bit that you show what you play and stuff, but then again, this week we had a totally different idea of draft than everyone else did on both sides. Only played 2 games on blue side, but we have different ideas than other people do, so I think it doesn't matter too much. But the most important thing is the experience we get from playing this tournament. Scrimming other teams than European teams. We get to play on stage more than other people do, and against international teams, which is nice. So I think it doesn't matter too much. Honestly, playoffs will be on a different patch most likely anyways, so yeah.
I do want to ask though, because a lot of focus is always on like boot camping before Worlds. That's where teams improve a
Right.
lot. Now that Katowice is only just 1 week, you probably don't have that much time to like scrim other teams.
Yeah.
Do you still gain a lot from just playing on stage against, like, let's say, a Korean team? Or is it
Yeah.
mainly from scrims and boot camping you get the most?
I mean, you probably get the most from scrims and boot camps in terms of improving. Like 1 game on stage doesn't matter all too much, but just like that 1 game might help you in the future. But definitely boot camps is more important. It's like 3 weeks of boot camping is more important than 1 game on stage, right?
Yes.
Or like in terms of improvement, the game is more important on stage, of course. But yeah, I think boot camping is what helps people the most to improve. Like if you like, the rate of improvement is really fast in a boot camp when you're playing against teams with different ideas of the game. It's really refreshing to play against people with different ideas of how the game is supposed to be played. When we play in Korea and boot camp against like different teams from different regions, they have like different priorities, different styles of play, and you can see what is better and what works. And you learn faster.
Yeah, so seeing as it's only a 1-week tournament, we shouldn't expect G2, Unicorns, and H2K to come back to Europe and just be like twice as strong or something.
No.
Because obviously there's been no Worlds boot camp here.
No.
It's just go in, show what you got now, and then see if it's enough.
Well, I'm definitely very excited to see that, Katowice. But before we head there and before 3 of our teams head up to Poland, we'll round out week 5 of EULCS tomorrow afternoon with Splice versus Roccat, followed by Origin taking on Fnatic. And then this is your second tier or third in your previous taking on the lower tier teams. And you should expect Splice and Fnatic to close this out. But, I mean...
There's been issues for both Fnatic and Splice, for sure. But like when you look at this schedule, you're like, the 3rd tier teams, which is Splice, Fnatic, should be able to take out the 5th tier teams pretty easily. Like we look at 2 zeros like today, but again, I don't know if there's any room for upset because we haven't had any so far.
No upset so far. Do you call
I
one?
think the upset thing is really hard to get when you have best of 3s, honestly. Like, if you lose 2 games in a row to a team that's 9th and 10th placed, then you just have to lose. That's just it. I think Splice and Fnatic both should have it in them to 2-0 this one, and if they lose 1 game, it should be good enough to not lose 2 games in a row, right? And actually come back.
Is playoffs almost already locked now? Where top 3 in each group seems to be just going straight to playoffs, and there seems to be very little room for changes.
It's not locked as in it's already done, but I think that G2 misses Fnatic and UL, H2K, and Splice will be the playoff teams. But like I think teams like Vitality, Giants, Rocket, and OG needs a pretty huge change or like uphill battle to get into playoffs. Like they have to win a lot of matches against teams that are better than them. So I won't say it's locked because it's not locked already, but it's kind of locked. You know what I mean? It's kind of impossible for them to make it at this point, given the situation they're in.
Crazy surprise.
I think all 4 bottom tier teams have almost 0 wins, like 1 win on Giants maybe against Rockets. So
it would be a monumental upset if that happens. So it is also, you wonder what, like, for the teams in the bottom of the table, then they have to like recalibrate. And as Memento says, you have to practice more and maybe look ahead, making definitely sure that you don't drop out.
And that's always the problem. When you have to then start beating teams better than you need to practice twice the amount, but you can't. There's no time to do that. Every team is already practicing so many hours in scrims and VODs. So, like, you just run out of time, and it's not like every other team is going to start slacking, so you can catch up.
What a reality check here. Says here's note.
Well,
Just
the
a
first
truth of the
step on
system.
improving is knowing that you're actually not the best or that you have things to improve on. So there's that going for him.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. You guys are feeling pretty good after these 2 days. And good luck in Katowice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. Time for us to log off. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central European Time for the conclusion of Week 5 of the European LCS. Au revoir.
Isabel.
I basically just teleport top.
Cacao, Cannons, curtain call, 1 shot, 2, yes! First blood! Moving forward, how far he gets the engage, but he's not going to get the follow-up. Now moving back, AOD may get caught out again. Is that going to be another kill for Cacao? He's killed AOD once, he kills him again.